guys and welcome. Halo's never been a game known for its boss battles. I mean, looking back at games like Halo 2, when you are literally, as Marty O'Donnell puts it, punching an old guy in a wheelchair when you're fighting the Prophet. And not to mention the Warden Eternal, which we fought 7 damn times in the same campaign. Let's just say it wasn't the most appreciated boss fight in the Halo franchise. But Halo Infinite takes boss battles to a whole nother level, especially for Halo, and they're actually pretty good. From Chak Lok, the polite elite Chad who definitely captained the college football team, to Bassus, the old man monkey that surprise attacks you in-game. There are some massive varieties, and good varieties to put it that way, of each of these bosses, and they do have some pretty interesting backstory and lore behind them. Today, I want to go for the lore behind all of the bosses in Halo Infinite, their backstories, and how they became a part of the Banished. If you guys want to know more around Atriox himself, I will leave a video link down below where you can go and check it out, and it goes from his backstory from the very first time that he was essentially born up until this very point. That video will literally go on for like 20 minutes in itself, so I have left it for a separate one, so go check it out if you want to see that. But guys, if you do want to enjoy the video, a like would be very much appreciated, and if you do like what you see, subscribing to the channel would be much appreciated as well. Without further ado though guys, let's get straight into it. The first boss we're going to start with today is my personal favourite, and probably yours as well, Jega Rdomnai.
I miss you.
And I love you.
I love you, Daddy.
You break too. Soon you'll meet your end. Say goodbye.
343 industry writer Jeff Easterling cited Jega Rdomnai's robotic prosthetics as an example for what the Covenant would have been like without its dogmatic restraints. Easterling also contrasted Rdomnai to the Arbiter, Thel Vadam, with Rdomnai being representative of Vadam's psycho elements. So Jega was based on a psychopathic version of the Arbiter. I would absolutely love to see a short story based on Jega and just generally his backstory from when he was born up until this very point, how he grew up and where he came from. I just think the idea of Jega being a more psychopathic version of the Arbiter, man, that's just that right there makes me love this character even more. During his service with the Covenant, Jega Rdomnai was a member of the Silent Shadow, a unit within the Covenant's Special Operations branch. During one of his missions, he lost his left arm. Rdomnai had these two replaced with prosthetics, despite robotic replacements being anti-ethical to Covenant tradition and principles. The injuries also gave Rdomnai a lust for battle and vengeance, both of which completely outweighed his own pride in his own Sangheli culture. The exact circumstances that gave him the injuries were shrouded in rumours, with very few aware of his true story. Prior to joining the Banished, Rdomnai hunted Spartans. At some point before the Zeta Halo conflict in 2560, Rdomnai joined the Banished as a first recruit for the Hand of Atriox. Rdomnai became Escharum most respected soldier, having worked together for the longest and even becoming his closest friend, which was very rare between these species. Within the Banished, there were many rumours about Rdomnai and his injuries. Some said that he was an experiment, which became an affront to his fellow Sangheli. Later on into the campaign, after the Master Chief finally arrived in the House of Reckoning, Rdomnai confronted him in a transport docked in the arena on the 3rd level, using Fernando Esparza's holorecorder to lure the Master Chief into a trap. Despite using his active camouflage extensively, Rdomnai was ultimately killed by the Master Chief, finally avenging the several UNSC personnel that he had ambushed during the 6-month-long Banished occupation. After his friend's death, Escharum informed the Master Chief that Rdomnai had wanted to kill Esparza, but Escharum had promised him a sweeter prize, or a warrior's death instead. The next Hand of Atriox member to discuss today is the ultimate polite Chad himself, Chak Lok, my second favourite boss in Halo Infinite.
Welcome to my tower, Master Chief. It is where you will be broken. It is where you will give up your secrets.
Chak Lok, the second Hand of Atriox we fight, often spoke in a calm, polite manner, even when addressing his enemies. However, he quickly dropped his demeanour once battles started. Chak Lok enjoyed torturing his prisoners both physically and mentally. Arrogant and prideful, He displayed no concern when the Master Chief attacked the tower. He held a low view of humans in general, regarding them as being soft and easy to break. Like many Sangheili, he also viewed the brutes with contempt, though he was still a loyal follower of Escharum. Chak Lok also regarded the Harbinger with a certain degree of reverence, viewing her words as the truth. Chak Lok interrogated human prisoners in a facility called the Tower that we visit very early on in the campaign. Once all valuable intel about the UNSC resistance effort on Zeta Halo had been wrung out to the prisoners, Chak Lok would send them into the House of Reckoning. One of his captives held at the tower was Spartan Hudson Griffin, who was taken prisoner following a failed assassination attempt on Escharum. Chak Lok also tortured and captured a combat medic, Lucas Browning, before handing him over to the Harbinger, who expressed annoyance at the damage that Chak Lok had done to the prisoner. After the Master Chief was confirmed by the Banished leader to have returned in May 2560, Chak Lok set a trap by activating a distress signal which Griffin's armor produced, which the weapon picked up and the Spartan predictably pursued. Chak Lok ordered the facility to put into lockdown when the Master Chief arrived and taunted him via a hologram, claiming that the Spartan 2 would never get inside the tower. However, with the help of the weapon, the Master Chief located the security building that controlled the lockdown, lifted it and ascended into the main structure. The Chief eventually confronted Chak Lok, who was torturing Spartan Griffin. The two fought one-on-one and John killed Chak Lok, despite Chak Lok using his cloak to an advantage. Unfortunately, it was too late for Griffin, who died from his injuries soon after. This is also a really interesting point I wanted to make here, and it was following Chak Lok's death, there were some communications by a grunt officer basically saying that Chak Lok's tower was under renovations and claimed that Chak Lok was still 100% alive. So take it as you will, very interesting, but I just thought I'd put that in there at the end.
To all humans looking forward to being interrogated to death, I regret to report that the tower is closed for renovations by order of Commander Chak Lok, who is 100% alive. But don't worry, we'll be happy to make other arrangements to send you to whatever stupid afterlife you believe in. Or, absent that, the inky abyss.
Next kind of Atriox member we're going to be talking about today is the spineless Tremonius.
This isn't Forerunner. It identifies as Banished.
Can you operate it?
In my sleep? Not that I sleep, but... Oh! I don't need to. It's already on its way down.
Incoming.
But what if it's a friend?
It isn't.
Escherum's orders are that you should be brought before him. He did not specify in how many pieces.
When the Banished had found out that Atriox had died, there was an instant turmoil in the faction, with some members not totally agreeing with Escharum taking charge and his ways of pursuing Atriox's will. One of the main members causing this turmoil was Tremonius. As was seen in the campaign, Tremonius wasn't pleased when finding out that the Chief was still alive, essentially speaking down to Escharum and trying to assert his dominance in the boardroom. Jega and Escharum put him in his place in that cutscene, and let's just say he had little to say after that. On January 31st, 2560, Tremonius made a name for himself by successfully leading an assault that wiped out the major UNSC survivor encampment at the wreckage of the UNSC Mortal Reverie. Escharum decided to name the first ever taken Banished stronghold Outpost Tremonius in his honour, so that the other Banished would be inspired by his deeds. Tremonius was seemingly promoted to Warlord after this as well. On May 28th, Tremonius was aboard Escherum's flagship when the Banished leadership received word that the Master Chief, who up to that point had been presumed dead, had destroyed the Ghost of Gobrakan. Tremonius was infuriated and alarmed by the Master Chief's return and began sharply criticising Escherum's plan, causing the Blade Master, Jega Rdomnai, to forcibly restrain him. Escharum assured the bitter Tremonius that the Spartans' reappearance would provide the Banished with a much-needed challenge, and order his underlings not to interfere with the Spartans' activities for the time being. Not long after this meeting, the Master Chief activated a Banished lift within the depths of Zeta Halo while searching for a way to the surface, but Tremonius was waiting and descended in the lift. He fought the Master Chief in the weapon and support from 2 Kigyar in defiance of Escherum's orders, but the brute was outmatched and killed. After ascending the lift, which emerged within Outpost Tremonius, the Master Chief encountered a hologram of Escharum, who taunted him and dismissed the late Tremonius as one of the Banished's least remarked warriors. So yeah, no one really liked Tremonius. The next hand of Atriox we're going to be talking about today is Bassus, the old man brute that scared the living crap out of all of us in the campaign.
Spartan's not so tough, I think. Break open easy. Soft inside.
Chief?
I see him.
Bassus appears to be a typical brute who enjoys battle, chuckling in the heat of it, and demonstrates relatively low intellect in his speech. Like most brute bosses, Bassus appears to dislike the Sangheliers, as shown in his disdain for Chak Lok and delight upon learning of the elite's death. He saw the battle with the chief as an opportunity to become a Spartan killer if he was victorious, and considered himself to be a more superior warrior than Tremonius. Bassus has a tendency to refer to himself in the third person. Bassus was old school. He didn't take nicely to any new factions joining the Banished, and when the Covenant forces joined Atriox and the Brutes then as well, he didn't really like that. Bassus was defeated by the chief during their encounter at the excavation site, where Bassus jump-scared us when trying to deactivate the cannon used to mine through the ring's ores. The next hand of Atriox we're going to be talking about today is Tovarus and Hyperius, the two brothers that seem to have defeated a few similar faces in the Halo universe. Hyperius was seemingly very attached to his brother, a sentiment that Tovarus didn't seem to share. This was understood in the campaign when we fought the two brothers. Tovarus seemingly didn't think that highly of his brother Hyperius. He apparently considered him to be a coward, so Tovarus is a little bit of a dick really. In 2560, Hyperius participated in the Installation 07 conflict, during which he and Tovarus killed many Spartans, including Theodore Sorel. Later, they were sent by Escharum to hunt down the Master Chief. Hyperius and Tovarus engaged the Spartan after he destroyed the 3 anti-air cannons within the campaign. With Hyperius mounted on his custom chopper and Tovarus raining down fire with his scrap cannon, they were unsuccessful in killing the chief, and both brothers died at the Spartans' hands. If we ever get some more lore around these two brutes, I'll definitely do a separate video on the two, but as of now, we don't have an awful lot to go off, but it's very interesting to see that Tovarus didn't think too highly of Hyperius. And the next person we're going to be talking about today is Escharum, the main antagonist in the game and the leader of the Banished in the absence of Atriox.
Out of here.
You will try.
Chief? He's here.
He knows I'm here. This was never a trap. It is a test of metal. Our battle ends here.
Get him out of there.
On it.
Bear witness. Our story will become legend, told by those that survive you.
Let's go, baby! Woo! Escharum was Atriox's mentor when he was younger and when he had first come through in the Covenant army. Escharum classifies Atriox as his greatest ever recruit, displaying skills not possessed by any other member of the Banished army, or the Covenant army should I say at that time. Although Atriox welcomes humans to join and serve in the Banished due to the utility they offer, Escharum maintained a fierce dislike to them for reasons unknown and considered them to be vermin. As such, many of Escherum's forces, such as the Legion of the Corpse Moon and the Clan of the Ravaged Tusks, similarly never permitted humans to serve in their ranks. Escharum oddly didn't appear to hate the Sangheliers, he did with the humans. He considers Jega Rdomnai to be his most respectable soldier, and developed a camaraderie with him, which was very rare between the two species. Escharum revelled in combat and enjoyed the challenge certain Spartans could offer him. He encouraged the Master Chief to fight hard and die well. Without battle, he somberly described himself to be lost and alone. Despite his hatred towards humanity, Escharum displayed a respect for the Master Chief as a fellow warrior and was invigorated by the revelation of his survival. He cared deeply about having a legacy to be remembered by, and told the Master Chief to spread his legend in his dying breath. Despite being enemies, the Master Chief respected Escharum as well, telling Fernando Esparza at the end of the campaign that whilst Escharum was a monster, he was also just a soldier. Part of Escherum's joy at having a final battle against such a legend, the Master Chief, may have come from him being terminally ill, fueling his desire for a worthy last opponent. Now, my biggest criticism of Escharum was not the character in general, because I think there's a lot of potential there, but it was the way that he was portrayed in Infinite, constantly being behind a hologram and not actually seeing him versus the Chief at any time in the game. That's my main issue with him. It's very similar, to be fair, to Spartan Locke in Halo 5, a really cool backstory and concept, but not written in the way to excite the player, and I don't know, I feel like Escharum could have been made to be something great, but it was a bit anticlimactic just because of the way that it was portrayed in the game. But guys, that's all the lore behind all of the bosses that we fight during the Halo Infinite campaign. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of lore out there about them just yet. The game is fairly new still, and I presume a lot of this lore will be in books, maybe in some of the TV shows that we may hear a little bit of something about them, or even in DLC, but the information we do have is cool nevertheless. But I'm really excited to see what happens in DLC 1, and see what DLC 1 offers and the different information and lore we get around these bosses and even new bosses. But guys, if you did go on to enjoy the video, a like would be much appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more content coming to the channel each and every single day. And then of course on the back of that as well, if you want to be notified when a video does go live, be sure to ring that notification bell down below, and yeah, to be notified immediately when we do go live. But guys, have a good rest of your day, speak soon, and take care.